why there's such a need for tools that can do this kind of work. And that has to do with my mom's diary. This is 1945. She wrote every single day. She was age 16. And I've talked about this a lot, but it's precious to us, and I feel this is kind of something that most every home has, something that's really valuable and memorable, but hard to digitize, hard to scan, both in the fact that it's bound, which is hard to do on a scanner. You kind of crush it when you want to scan it, which I've done with this one. And when I was developing the SHOTBOX, I took this and I did a test. I ran it through my scanner with my computer, and it took me about 5 to 6 hours to scan it all and to curate it and crop it and get it ready for a PDF file or a digital shareable copy or reprint. Then I took it in my SHOTBOX. At the time I was using an iPhone 6, and I did that whole process in under an hour and a half of just what I'm going to show you here, turning a page, taking a picture, turning a page, taking a picture, where I didn't have to crush the book as well. But obviously this was a monumental year for the world, not just our family, and so I really want to preserve this. And I want to show you kind of how I did it. So using a SHOTBOX, there's just a creative variety of ways that we do to set up for each element, whether it be a different size book or a scrapbook or a 12 by 12 or a newspaper clipping. It all kind of takes its own little setup that as you get used to the SHOTBOX and use it in a variety of ways, it becomes very simple, and you understand you're creating a photographic environment for the media that you're shooting. What I'm going to do in this case, where it's a smaller book, is I'm actually going to raise the floor. And I'm going to do that with something I have around the house. We all have probably a lot of these Amazon boxes, but I'm just going to put it underneath. What that does is proximity matters to photography. You don't really want to be zooming so much with your camera as you do with just getting closer. And in this case here, this kind of represents a perfect height for what I'm doing with the book here. And actually what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn the floor around as well, because when I put the book on here, it's going to create more of a hard line between the book and the white to give cropping a better chance to be done automatically. So what I'm doing with this book, I'm going to set it here. I'm going to take my iPhone, nope, sorry, no iPhone, this is a Google Pixel. Still a great camera. And I'm going to use TurboScan as my camera app. And I do a scanning app because it's going to build it as a PDF on the fly, doing each page as each shot that I take as a page in the PDF. And that's what the difference is between a scanning app and a normal camera. Normal camera is just going to take a JPEG photo, unless you have something that does a RAW photo. Whereas a scanning app like TurboScan or Scanner Pro will build that book on the fly. So I'm also going to use this shutter release cable. This is something that we include with the bundle here at Rootstech. And it will of course take the picture or each page as I shoot it with the shutter release plugged into the auxiliary cable jack instead of me having to touch the screen, which makes it much easier to continue to just keep going and going. So in this case, some phones don't have an auxiliary jack anymore. They usually come with the adapter that goes from the auxiliary jack tip to usually the USB-C input, and you'll need that if you're going to use this cable. We also include a Bluetooth shutter cable as well. In that case, if you don't have a jack to use, that also is included in the bundle for Rootstech this week. So I'm going to open up TurboScan, position my camera right there. I can see in the viewfinder that I see my book. The nice thing about TurboScan is it's going to sense the color balance. It's going to kind of do an auto adjustment and auto focus. I don't have to worry about that so much. So in this sense, I have it in there, and I'm just literally going to start taking pictures. TurboScan also, and the scanner apps, what they do a really good job of is auto cropping. So it senses the edges, does the auto crop, and then it will build that out. You can go back in and tweak it if you have to, but that's one of the biggest processes of doing scanning or shooting or any kind of editing on your photos after is cropping it down, and the less you have to do manually, the better. So I do that. What I'm going to do in this case, I'm going to take the book and actually take a picture of each side. Now I may have to go back in and kind of change the cropping of this side, but I still get the bulk of the image. I'm going to take a photo for each side. I don't want to do the whole thing, and there's a reason for that, because once this is done and I have it as a PDF file, then it turns like a book. I also can take it back in, and in this case I went back to print, and this is now a copy of this book that I did years ago, again on my iPhone 6, and it actually is clearer in some ways than the original because of the contrast, but she wrote in pencil and that became more and more faded, and this you can actually read really well. So we love this. My brothers and sister can have a copy of their own, and so as it goes through, now something that is at risk in the original form is obviously backed up both digitally and in print, so we can enjoy it, different homes can enjoy it and pull it off the shelf and read it. So that's why I do each side separately. So I take this, I center it, I take a picture, and I just continue to do this. I'm kind of careful with it, of course. Now, if you see this is kind of important. This kind of lifts up. This is why we have this little tool, which is a little tip. You can use a butter knife even, but we found these and they work really well to just come in and be able to hold this down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift that over there. So I hold this down with the tip of that. Now I don't mind so much if the crop has a little bit of that in it, but usually you can hold it in a place that you crop that all the way out. So I take a picture and I keep going. I turn it this way, make sure it looks good, and I continue to take the shot. So most books, you know, it's as simple as that. Some of them are bigger, some of them are more complex, some of them kind of have more bend to the pages, and you kind of got to be careful, but each one's a little bit different. And the good thing is, once I do this once and I go through the process, it may take me an hour or two, it's done. It's done. I don't have to do that material again. What I find though is it's kind of fun when you get into it and you start reading the stories, you start kind of experiencing the material, and it becomes very enjoyable as you go through and learn more things about it. So as we go through that process, it just becomes important to be able to be shareable, back it up, have it for the next generation. And this diary, as well as I did this one for my father as well, is his journal when he was in Hawaii in 1944. He was in the Navy and stationed there after Pearl Harbor, but this is his, obviously, story that's represented in so many families as well. I shot this on a SHOTBOX with my smart camera, printed it into a nice form here, and that was an hour or so. And that's kind of where the daunting task is. When you have a box full of books, and one book may take a day, we just don't get around to it. It takes too much time. So the point is to try to get to where maybe a book takes an hour and a half, and you actually do that. It's achievable. And that's part of the problem, that we just keep pushing forward and thinking we're going to do it someday. Need to talk about these little guys. So little fingertip sleeves we found that just help. You know, they actually you can use them through your phone or your device as easily, but if you're worried about fingerprints or oil off your fingers, or you can even dust stuff off with them. So these are nice, useful. These there's a pack of 4 that come with the bonus kit as well, all included for the $169 for the Rootstech special. Well, thanks for watching, and appreciate your support, and we'll see you on the other side of SHOTBOX.